This podcast is made possible by the listener members of Nashville Public Radio.
This is the Nash Villager Podcast. It's September 17th, 2025. On this day in 1691, a new charter was drafted for the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And in a way, you can kind of think of the British government's charters for American colonies as being like zoning regulations, just on a super macro scale. Things had evolved from when Christopher Columbus got his papers from Ferdinand and Isabella. Those basically just said, go out, conquer any and all lands you can, and we'll make you governor and admiral of whatever new stuff you add to Spanish control. The British initially sent their own explorers out under similar agreements, but when colonization started to really become a thing in North America, about 150 years later, things got more specific. The charters start to be documents that say who can live where and how, with different rules for different places, because not every zone of the American territories needed to serve the same overall purpose. The charters began to set physical boundaries for where certain groups can settle, what kind of communities they should form, how big their local governments can get. And eventually, with more colonists in America, sometimes fighting with each other about this or that, and with political changes going on back in London, the British government decided some of those zones had to be retooled a little, which is how we get to the document that was basically settled into final form on this day and signed a couple of weeks later by the joint monarchs, William and Mary. It grouped a few parts of New England into one colony called Massachusetts, tweaked the structure of the colonial government there, changed the standard for who could vote, things like that. I'm Nina Cardona, and this is your daily digest of what's happening around Middle Tennessee with historical context from Nashville Public Radio, WPLN News. Okay, so modern-day zoning does not deal with whether or not anyone can vote, but our contemporary regulations do a lot to create the shape of our neighborhoods. They say where certain kinds of businesses can or can't be. They determine whether or not you can build a second structure behind your house and rent it out as an apartment. In some ways, by setting limits on home sizes or by opening the doors to more density, they say how many people can live in an area. Now, for full disclosure, my husband works for Metro Codes. He's on the team that answers people's questions about what can be done on a particular lot or how to get a permit started. He comes home every day with stories about this stuff. So from him, I've learned that it's currently kind of tricky to find a place where you're allowed to open a used car lot in Nashville, and that an awful lot of Nashvillians are asking whether they can either subdivide their lot into two or build a detached accessory dwelling unit, a.k.a. DADU, a.k.a. that separate building for renting out that I mentioned a minute ago. The way things are now, even if there's a DADU a block over from your place, you may or may not be eligible to build your own. And on top of that, there are all kinds of extra layers like historic overlays that set specific ground rules for specific parts of the city. It's complex. It can be confusing. Some people find it infuriating. And the idea of changing it, at least some of it, has been a major topic in Metro Council for the last year or so. WPLN's Metro reporter, Cynthia Abrams, has been watching these developments for us. And as she's reported, there are conflicting tensions at play. On the one hand, there's a real need for affordable housing and just more units overall. That means higher density, which has to be zoned. But on the other hand, a lot of folks would like to see that density be anywhere but their own neighborhood. Or they worry that more affordable units will bring down the value of their own home. So they want zoning to protect their own particular bubble from those kinds of changes. And to a certain extent, some of the existing zoning comes from those protective reactions from past generations of homeowners pushing their council member to pass zoning laws that would get rid of more dense living situations down the street from them. For example, there was a time when neighborhoods that were initially built by the upper middle class of the early 20th century, like Belmont Hillsborough, went out of fashion. That upper middle class moved to the suburbs, and new owners turned the homes to rentals. In some cases, the interiors of those houses were subdivided into apartments, and all of that was legally allowed under the zoning that was in place in the 60s, 70s, 80s. But as the income levels in those neighborhoods began to rise again, people organized and petitioned the city for conservation overlays that helped reestablish the original character of the neighborhood. Generally speaking, those overlays tend to prioritize single-family homes. Separately, the rise in popularity of short-term rentals that coincided with the rise in popularity of Nashville as a party city also gave upstairs apartments and detached garage conversions a bad name in a lot of neighborhoods. course, the flip side is that those short-term rentals also took up space in what would have previously been available to locals as a more affordable kind of housing stock. The multiple layers of concern over that situation led to multiple actions hammering things out in Nashville's zoning laws. But again, we are now at a place where our city just plain needs more housing. To keep up with demand, the city's got to add 90,000 more units in the next decade. They can't all be big apartment buildings on our main thoroughfares. A good chunk of the units will need to be affordable, too. So in the next couple of months, Metro Council will consider proposals to make it easier to add more residences into existing neighborhoods. And that will vary some from place to place. As you look at how those proposed changes would affect your own neighborhood, I'll pass along one of those details that I've learned from my husband and his work at the Zoning Help Desk. We're going to hear a lot about how lots in X neighborhood could have up to Y units on a single lot. But the way it works is proportional. So, for example, if you're rezoned to be Residential Multifamily 6, RM6, that allows for 6 units per acre. But most likely, if you live in Nashville, you probably don't have a full acre, and neither do your neighbors. And another layer of rules determining things like setbacks from the lot lines, how much of the land can be covered in built structure, or the maximum height. Those will all also apply. So an RM6 zone won't necessarily mean you should expect the house next door to be replaced by a sixplex. But you might be looking at an extra household or two moving in before long. In just a few minutes, this week's edition of What Wear Wednesday is coming up after the newscast.
Tennessee's legislature has passed a record-breaking number of anti-LGBTQ laws. I'm Miriam Yao, and as WPLN's Power and Equity reporter, I focus not only on how marginalized communities contend with those new laws, but how they come together in spite of them.
I think what gives me hope is that someone like you is covering this. Because if the overwhelming narrative is one of defeat, how can we have hope?
Listen here on 90.3 WPLN News.
Here's the latest from WPLN News. Early voting in Tennessee's special primary election kicks off today. Republicans and Democrats running for the state's 7th congressional district are trying to stand out from other candidates in their own party. The Democratic side of the race is far less crowded, but as WPLN's Miriam reports, it's just as close.
Like the frontrunners on the Republican side, Democrats agree on the issues. They've all stressed affordable housing, access to health care, and lowering the cost of living for Tennesseans. When asked what set them apart from other candidates, State Representative Bo Mitchell said he can reach across the district and across the aisle. His first state house race, he says he won in a Republican-led district.
Obama was running for re-election the same year. He lost my district by 21 percentage points. So I have the ability to reach out and get people who are not voting just solely party lines and cross those party lines and vote for me.
State Representative Vincent Dixie said he was the only black candidate running for the Democratic nomination, and he's organized a grassroots campaign.
I'm a fighter, and we have to fight these people on the other side because we know that we're on the right side of history.
Nashville businessman Darden Copeland says he's the only candidate running that's not currently in office.
We have a slew of career politicians on both sides of the aisle, and I'm a little tired of sort of politics as usual and the bickering back and forth. I'm a coalition builder. I've never backed down from a fight. I'm not afraid of a fight, but it's not my default setting.
And State Representative Afton Bain, the only woman running in either primary, says she can energize voters and boost turnout.
The electorate wants to see young voters, young leaders lead this charge. They want to see us usher in a generation of prosperity. They want to see us take charge, elbow our way into the table, and to really be vocal about the issues that are affecting us.
Early voting runs now through October 2nd at polling sites across Middle Tennessee and parts of West Tennessee. Miriam Yao, WPLN News.
Nashville's main library branch has been shuttered since June when a fire broke out in the adjacent parking garage, badly damaging 2 floors and multiple cars. WPLN's Cynthia Abrams reports 3 months after the initial closure, there's still no reopening date in sight.
The library has been undergoing a deep clean to remove soot and smoke damage. Earlier this summer, Library Director Terry Luke said it was this cleaning, plus the coordination of repairs that was causing delays. But at a library board meeting this week, she said there's another factor.
During some recent additional assessments, because walls had to be opened, they identified further work on the building's fire safety systems.
And they don't know how long this will take.
I don't want to put a date out when we don't know what that date is.
The downtown main library is Nashville's biggest branch. While most programming has moved to other branches, some things have been disrupted. Limitless Libraries, which connects MNPS students to Metro's greater collection, plus the Library of Things, where patrons can borrow items ranging from toolkits to instruments, are both on pause. Cynthia Abrams, WPLN News.
The Nashville Predators want to spend $750 million to upgrade Bridgestone Arena. That's per a plan the hockey team presented to the Nashville Area Chamber of Commerce this week. The price tag is $100 million above an earlier proposal from this spring. The Tennessean reports the planned renovations include expanded concourses, hundreds of new seats, new shops, and a large rooftop bar overlooking Lower Broadway. The goal is to finish most of the upgrades by 2030. Funding will come from surcharges to Predators tickets and sales tax at the arena. Tennessee's technical colleges are getting a $1 billion boost. The network of schools, also known as Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology, educate nurses, mechanics, and technicians. The state doesn't have enough workers to fill these jobs, and classes often take place in outdated buildings. So Governor Bill Lee is shelling out $1.5 billion to boost capacity and better prepare students for the workplace. According to Axios Nashville, the upgraded buildings will allow training for thousands of additional students per year. Many of these buildings will be located on Whitebridge Road in Nashville. Tennessee's expansion of payday lending a decade ago has led to more than 100,000 collections by lawsuits against borrowers. That's according to an investigation by the Tennessee Lookout. State Representative Mike Sparks was one of the few lawmakers, Republican or Democrat, to vote against the law creating so-called flex loans in 2014. The legislation raised the cap on how much people could borrow and increased the allowable interest to an effective annual rate of 280%. It also made it easier for lenders to sue borrowers to collect.
Some of these individuals could be bankable. They could be home buyers. Yeah. But when they get tied down in this, I call it the slavery of debt. It's got some serious implications in the next 5 to 10 years. People aren't seeing it.
Spark appeared this week on WPLN's This Is Nashville about the impact of payday lending in Tennessee. He says right now the fallout is largely in courtrooms, but eventually those judgments lead to garnished wages and in turn, bankruptcies and sometimes homelessness. This year, Sparks was one of the few Republicans to vote against another bill that, again, increased the interest rate payday lenders can charge. A virus among white-tailed deer has been found in 8 Tennessee counties, including Sumner and Williamson. Hemorrhagic disease can cause fatigue, fever, and hurt deer's ability to breathe and walk. It's spread by biting midges, or no-see-ums, a type of bug that thrives in the kinds of weather we've had this spring and summer. The disease is not known to spread to humans. The Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency asks those who find dead or sick deer to file a report online. You'll find more news anytime at WPLN.org. Every week, Marquise lets us know what's going on, and this week, he's featuring an event for Nashville's makers.
I'm Marquise Munson, here with another edition of Nashville Public Radio's What Where Wednesday, keeping you up to date with the happenings in Nashville this week. Live music opportunities begin tonight with the Pixies performing at the Pinnacle. At Brooklyn Bowl on Thursday, the band Beaches performs. And at the same venue Friday, Duran Jones and The Indications take the stage. Also on Friday and Saturday at the Blue Room, 2 nights with Fox Warren, and Lorde kicks off her 2 nights at the Pinnacle. 3 more shows are on Sunday with TV on the Radio at the Ryman, the Marias at Ascend, and Johnny Marr at Brooklyn Bowl. On Monday, the band Slowpoke performs at the Basement East, and we wrap up this week's listings with Rilo Kiley at the Pinnacle and Wet Leg at Marathon Music Works. For more events, head over to WNXP.org/events. This week for What We're Wednesday, we feature the Forge Front Lawn happening at their location on 217 Willow Street this Saturday. A celebration of all the makers and artists who call the Forge their creative home.
I'm Allie Stewart. My title at the Forge is the Director of Community Engagement and Events. My speech about the Forge is it's a national nonprofit that focuses on advocacy in the arts. So we house a full-blown wood shop, full-blown metal shop, 2 gigantic galleries, one of which provides a residency program. So artists that want to get a studio space for free, they get a free studio space to do their art, and they get to have an exhibition. It's also an event space, and it's a hub for resources, whether that's tools, whether it's information, digital fabrication lab, a place where you can hold classes and teach others.
My name is Jacob Larson. I'm on the board of directors here at the Forge. I'm the member liaison. I spend a lot of time here, generally 6 to 7 days a week. The Forge is a community space where we, basically it's shops. It's a giant wood shop. It's a giant metal shop. It's art studios. But even more than that, it is community. And for people who are coming here, Nashville right now, with its growth, a lot of people don't have the space in their personal homes for tools and creativity. And that's what this place supplies, is just a place to learn from others and express yourself and to grow. I run a company here called Omo Furniture and Fabrication. We do primarily metal work. We also work in multimedia like wood, plastic, indoor, outdoor, commercial, residential, really everything. I like to say that we'll build whatever people will pay us to build. But yeah, I've been with the Forge since around 2020 at our old location. One of the first projects I did with the Forge was we linked up with Nissan and Vanderbilt to build ventilators for hospitals that were fully DIY, made out of wood, pool noodles, and windshield wiper engines. It's just one of those very purely Forge projects that are community-based, for the community, by the community.
I think it actually represents, as somebody that came from New York City and wanted to get to know Nashville well, I think it actually represents what Nashville is, and it actually fosters incredible environments to have some of the most special gatherings ever, whether that be a gallery and an exhibition and a show, or I do a little show here called Never Sent, which is like a storytelling series. And just the types of people that it attracts and the types of fun that we have here is just like a really special thing that I haven't been able to find anywhere else in Nashville. So Alyssa and I, she's the artistic director, we got together and we were like, we want to do something really corny and campy and cheesy and ridiculous and fun. So we came up with the Forge Front Lawn. Another thing I'll say about the Forge is no matter how arts advocacy in certain spaces can be really rough, but here we're always laughing, we're always making fun of ourselves, we're always having a good time. So we wanted to have something that kind of reflected that, like how it feels here. So we came up with somewhat of a block party, and we're calling it the Front Lawn. So there's going to be lawn chairs, there's going to be a whole bunch of flamingos that artists have worked on throughout Nashville, and we're going to auction off the flamingos, so it's going to be kind of competitive, so like bring your boots, you know what I mean? And there's going to be music. There's going to be all different types of demonstrations and tours. We also have it very kid-friendly. So we're going to indulge with Future Makers. That's a program that we have here that's for all different kinds of maker youth that want to build things and learn new things. So we're going to have activities for the kids. And then we're also going to have food and drinks that come with your ticket.
For more information about the Forge Front Lawn and other events happening this week, visit WNXP.org. My name is Marquise Munson, and thank you for listening to another edition of What We're Wednesday.
We do this roundup of Nashville news every weekday. Please consider subscribing on your favorite podcasting app. Thanks so much to all of you who left 5 stars, a thumbs up, or a review in your app of choice. That little bit of love really does tell the algorithms that more people should hear about us. And of course, everything at WPLN News is listener supported. You can make a donation at WPLN.org. And that's it for today. Thanks so much for listening. Let's make this day a good one, and we'll catch back up tomorrow.